Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast Week 22 preview. The time is flying by. It is time for the playoffs. Everyone now should be in playoffs or eliminated. It is that time of year. That's it. Unless you're in a Roto League or I don't know what other leagues would not have playoffs right now. But virtually every league, I'd say 95% of the leagues, should be in the playoffs. So what are some of the changes we made to this episode?
Maybe. Some of them are starting this coming week, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this preview is assuming you're going to be going week. Into week 22. Yes. As in, yes,
only like a 4-team league or something might not be. Even then, you should
leagues. You should probably be starting. You should probably be starting. I mean, I have one of my leagues, my standard league, is 12 people deep, but we're starting, and only 4 teams make playoffs. Or maybe it's a 10-team league. I don't remember. I think it's a 10-team league, actually. And we start playoffs this upcoming week, and only 4 teams make it. So still, even in 4-team leagues, you can still be having playoffs right now. Anyways, what did we do to change up this episode to make it more playoff-driven? So a few things. I spent more time doing research, as did Brandon, and just kind of really honing in on who we like. And at the end of the day, the reasoning is important, but it's not as important as in the past. Like, for example, a note on somebody of like, oh, they're shooting at like 10% or 20% or whatever. So you got to be careful. It's not as important this week. You're trying to go for starts and you're trying to go for hot hands. Those are kind of the 2 things you're looking for good out of players. So the way this episode is going to go is we have still the week review is normal. We have the injury report is normal. We'll give you drop candidates. We'll preview the week. We're skipping long-term targets because, well, there's not much long-term anymore.
I definitely have long-term targets, by the way.
I mean, I have guys that I'm going to like through the end of the playoffs, but that's not exactly a long-term target to me. That's still a short-term guy that I'm probably just going to hold through playoffs. It's not necessarily like a long-term. At this point, look, you know what? This is one of my week reviews, so we'll get to it. But anyways, and then we'll have short-term targets at the end, and I have a ton of short-term targets. And the players that we do talk about, we won't go as in-depth as we normally do in terms of why we like them. Just, I guess you're going to have to trust us a little bit that we did the research on these guys, and that there's a reason we like them. And I encourage you to go take a look and see if you might like them as well with what they're giving you. But we won't go as in-depth with players as we normally do, just so that we can give you more pickup suggestions than we normally do. So, with that being said, let's move into the week review. And my first one here is about the LA Kings. On a 5-game win streak, the goalies are playing well. So are the Kings good again?
I've been saying the whole time I don't quite understand why the Kings are as bad as they are. Like on paper, they always look good all season. They were like reverse Blue Jackets. But I don't think so. I think they're not any better than they were. I can't imagine what changed. So
I actually, the only place or area that I'm seeing improvement in that I would actually kind of pay attention for fantasy is Quick and Campbell. There is something there. They've been playing extremely well. They haven't really had an off game in a while. And they're playing 2 tired teams this week. There's an interesting angle there to be able to take advantage of maybe starting 1 or 2 of them there. So I would keep an eye out on that. That's the only thing I have with the Kings here is they've been playing well. They play tired teams. If they can continue to play like they have been, there may be some value there. And no one's really looking at Quick or Campbell for the most part. Or not Campbell, sorry. Peterson. Cal Peterson. Campbell is on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, the other one.
Misspoke.
Well, my first one is about the New York Islanders losing their 6th straight game. There's nothing good is happening over there right now, and I think that
it's falling apart.
I've got the Islanders tandem in a league or 2, which I think I might actually barely survive despite that. Obviously, despite my goaltending, but it's starting to get concerning about whether you hold on to these goalies despite how seemingly easy their schedule is. I mean, they took a loss to Ottawa, to Montreal, and not good losses either, giving up 4 to Ottawa and 6 to Montreal. Both of those should have been wins at this point. And even to, the rival New York Rangers, who they've historically done pretty well against over the last several seasons. They've just been dropping games this season. So I don't really know what's going on with them. Again, the rest of their schedule is not terrible. And I mean, it's not great either, but it's just they're actually hard to recommend at this point, which is unfortunate considering how good they were all season. So and like we're going to say repeatedly as you look into the rest of the playoffs here, nobody gets a long leash anymore. Nobody does. If somebody's giving you a reason to drop them, you don't need to think about it too long, because really you need to make sure that you have the immediate games in hand. It's no longer, oh, he can slump for 2-3 weeks. That's if he slumps for 2-3 weeks, you just lose at some point. So you need to make adjustments as necessary. I saw Varlamov get dropped in one of my leagues. I'm not even picking him up, I don't think, which feels really weird.
Yeah, a lot of people have been dropping him, actually. We've seen it quite a bit. We've seen a lot of questions come in of should I be picking up Varlamov? And that was actually going to be my next point here in the week review, is that we've seen a lot of goaltenders get really good recently. There's a lot of options right now. You have Stalock turning it on. You've seen Khudobin doing really well and getting more starts. You see Shesterkin, who granted had a terrible game tonight when we were recording this.
Wrecked.
It's Saturday night.
Destroyed.
Terrible game. Got absolutely wrecked, but he's still a good option. You see Korpisalo, who's available on a lot of wires still, and he's still been good. Merzlikins just came back from injury. There's so many good options. No one should have short leashes. Or long leashes.
Everybody should have short leashes, yeah.
Everyone should have a short leash. That's what I meant. Especially goaltenders right now.
Except for our new favorite, UC Saros, who you should hold until time ends.
Yes. But that's kind of the thing, is there's so many good options right now that, and actually I would say that for forwards, it's actually a little tougher, I've found, looking at things recently, especially defense. It seems really barren this year compared to past years where there were some options. So for goaltenders especially, one option that I like a lot looking at it is, let's say you're in an averages league. I'm looking at this for my league, for example, next week. Averages league, 4 minimum starts. There's so many good goaltenders on the wire. I want to get at least, I don't want to hold more goaltenders than I need to.
Yeah.
I want to get my starts and get out. That's pretty much it, and get as many skater starts as I can after that. Because say you need to start at the end or you need to clean up, goaltending might be one of the easiest places to clean up this year. I mean, you have Cam Talbot, you have Khudobin, you have Jake Allen. You have a lot of people you can stream in where the odds of them giving you a good game are actually pretty high this year. So yeah, that's my big week in review, is that we've seen a lot of goaltenders step up in the past 2 weeks, which means that going into playoffs this year, especially, goaltenders are the ones that need to have the shortest of leashes. I mean, we're talking even Carey Price might be drop worthy at this point, because there's so many players that can replace him.
Yeah, I agree. And Bobrovsky as well, as we all know.
Bobrovsky as well, of course. I mean, I have Price, I have Bobrovsky. Honestly, I am so close. Bobrovsky's on my IR plus, so I don't really care. But Price, I mean, he hasn't had a good game in a while. I have UC Saros. I've got Mike Smith, who of course just had a terrible game, but gives me good starts. And there's still people out there. There's just so many options that I don't know if I really want to keep Carey Price. I'm going to give him probably one more game and then see. But if he has a bad game, I'm not going to stress it. I'm going to drop him for another goaltender probably. And the same thing in all my other leagues.
Yeah.
Not really. Yeah.
It feels really weird to be walking into playoffs with several of my teams with goalies that were not drafted at all.
Yes.
Francouz, Saros, Crawford, Talbot, Shesterkin, a bunch of options that suddenly just popped up recently. Yeah.
Which, I think the teams where I have the greatest confidence in my goaltending too, which is funny, are the ones where I actually employed the strategy that I had talked about, except for the Bob one. That one is because it's Bob and it bit me in the butt. But in all the leagues where I kind of employed the strategy I said at the beginning of the year, where take a goalie really early, just because there's this elite level of Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, whatnot, and then it's a huge fall off. Granted, Bob was supposed to be in there, and you have Bishop in there as well. But then there's this massive fall off of goaltenders. Those are the leagues where I'm doing pretty well. Like if you have Vasilevsky, you're feeling pretty good. If you have Connor Hellebuck, you're feeling pretty good. But I think that's what we're going to see going forward as well, is I think we're going to see this big separation between the true elite talent in goaltending, and it's going to be maybe 2 or 3 goaltenders out there. And then after that, it's going to fall off, and it's better to wait longer and longer every single year, probably.
I have a bit of an issue of you putting Hellebuck in the same long-term. I mean, this season,
he
yes,
should be the best favorite.
I still.
Last year he had a bad year. The year before that, he was incredible.
So he's Craig Anderson of old.
No.
The on-off.
No. How dare you? What?
That means he's going to have an off. He's going to have an off. You just doomed him. That means next season he's guaranteed to be bad. So just know that going in.
Probably. Bob's going to be good next year. But speaking of Bob, how low is Bob going to go next year?
I feel like not that low. I think people are going to have I think he's still going to go fairly high, but we'll see.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll see. It's 2 years now that he's burned people.
Yep. So okay. Moving to skaters for a second. You know, the more I've looked at things, the more I've watched the last month or two, the more I'm starting to think that Kevin Fiala is probably the best single like guy that came out of nowhere at the end of the league coming into playoffs here. So there's a handful. I mean, not including people that were like traded. So Toffoli, like there was some obvious upside when he got moved. Even Zucker, obvious upside when he got moved. But Fiala, and I guess you could say Zucker got traded, so Fiala got opportunity, whatever. But he was a player that for the longest time I felt like he was overrated a little bit. Everybody wanted to talk about how good Fiala was on the Preds, how Fiala's the next thing, blah, Fiala. We heard about it a lot. That he was going to be, breaking out any day now. And we're finally seeing it. And I was happily able to grab him in a couple of leagues before he was scooped up by other players. But it took a lot longer than I would have expected, considering how good he was for such a long period of time for him to, cross that 50% ownership. It's pretty interesting, actually. And I do think that, the GMs that were able to get him, he was about the best player that you didn't have to rush day of to grab from the waiver wire. I mean, at 67%.
The guy, now. What's really insane to me too is that even while he was good, we were getting questions of, should I pick up Kevin Fiala or should I drop Kevin Fiala to pick up this other player? Like for Yamamoto, everyone was like, oh, should I drop Fiala for Yamamoto while Fiala was in the middle of his craziness? We're like, what? Why would you drop Fiala?
Yeah.
He is very much the real deal. And I agree with you. I think there was probably some mistakes made from different owners, maybe people who don't listen to podcasts and such, where they dropped Fiala thinking, oh, this is all just a hot hand effect. Nothing's really going to come of this. He's going to slow down eventually. It's Minnesota. And they didn't really buy in long term. And they're definitely regretting it now.
Yeah. League availability 0 for that one, of course. I've got him in 2 leagues. It feels fine, I guess. I wish I had more than that, but
I mean, better than me. I have 0. So
nice. All right. My last bit here, unless you have another one for week review.
Nope, no more.
We mentioned, I think we're going to mention this probably every single episode until the end of the season. Watch the waiver wire, especially when the week gets late in and on playoff rounds when people are on the brink of being eliminated. They will drop and it's the right move. Honestly, it's the right move to drop. It doesn't matter if you're going to lose without making a drop of your best player because they're not playing on Sunday. You have to. Like, what's the point of hanging on to Malkin, for example, if he doesn't play on a Sunday and you are very likely to lose if you don't swap him for like a goalie, for example. I mean, that's an extreme example. It's not going to happen. You're not going to see the best players in the league get dropped or anything, but you'll see some very good players get dropped, and it's going to happen from now until the end of the league. So this is those of you that have hoarded your, waiver priority number 1 status. Those of you that have hoarded some of your FAAB, you're going to be able to find some pretty good deals going down the stretch here if you keep your eyes open.
Also, it's not just people that are dropped, but you're probably also going to be able to get some pretty decent deals on free agents as well, because now, 1, you're not battling with as many people, and 2, different people need different things. And so there's a good chance that just because Duncan Keith is the best pickup, other people may not be eyeing him simply because they can't fit him or he doesn't help them in areas that they need. So if you're, top of the table or something like that, there is a lot of opportunity. This is another thing I'll say to that. It's like, check your free agents list.
Yep.
Like if you hear us talk about like Duncan Keith or Dustin Brown or these higher owned players, or even like a guy like I'm going to mention later, Jaden Schwartz, who's 62% owned, it is worth checking. I go through when I'm making my pickups for the week for playoffs, I go through the team lists. I don't go through who's in free agency. I go and look at who has a good schedule for my roster, then go to who's available on Tampa Bay or who's available on St. Louis. Because sometimes you'll be surprised by who's out there still. You may not have noticed that they got dropped. You may not think they're even available, and then they are. So that's another really smart thing to take advantage of, is a lot of people tend to just look at the free agent list and go, okay, last 14 days, last 30 days, who's out there, what's happening, instead of going and looking at the teams and being like, oh, wait, hold on, this player's there. So that's another smart way to take advantage of the wire while playoffs are going on.
Yep. Yeah. Let's move into the injury report
Injury
now
report time.
before we all go insane.
Yep.
My first one here, John Gibson, day-to-day, undisclosed. Just drop him. I mean, even if you can stash him, I feel like it's a trap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have him dynasty, so I've been having to stash him. But did have a good game in his last one out. Not quite a shutout, despite it was weird to see 0 goal against, but a win and not a shutout. And that was because he didn't make it to the end of the game. But 26 saves, fine. Next up, Adam Boquist, day-to-day with a wrist injury. They've got Cale Makar, day-to-day with an upper body injury. Sergei Bobrovsky, day-to-day with lower body injury. See, now these goalies are just doing you a favor. Alexa, what are you doing? Alexa, stop. Listening to me all the time.
It's Bob coming through your Alexa.
Yeah. So Sergei Bobrovsky, it seems like all the goaltenders that could risk you your playoffs are just taking themselves out of the picture. So thank them for that. Eric Stahl is day-to-day with a death in the family, unfortunately. We got Brendan Gallagher, who just came back, actually. So he's here with an illness. So I'm just going to go ahead and take him off the list because he did play. We've got Tomas Tatar, day-to-day with an upper body injury. James Van Riemsdyk is out for the fantasy season with a hand injury. That's funny. Actually, I didn't realize that I put Brendan Gallagher is out and he returned. So we'll go ahead and remove that. This is like the opposite of last week where we had a lot of movement last week. This week, not so much. So those are the outs. I don't even know why Tatar's on here. They must have updated his status, which changes the date. So he's actually not new, as I'm sure everybody's aware. Oscar Klefbom returned. We had Linus Allmark return. Igor Shesterkin returned. Anthony Duclair returned. Ben Bishop, James Neal, and Kyler Yamamoto all returned this week. James Neal briefly gave a lot of excitement. Oh, he's top line. Oh, he's top power play. And nope, neither one now. So that was fun for a second. But that's it. That's the injury report. Not very long.
Wow. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Usually it's so long. Mm-hmm. Anyways, okay, let's move into drop candidates.
It can't be that long when everybody's already hurt.
That is true, and everyone's already dead, and we've talked about them, and no one's coming back. That's what happens. So let's Let's jump into. I guess you could drop in, huh? You could drop into drop candidates here and talk about some players. So my first one here is Alec Martinez, defenseman, 26% owned, just not playing that many minutes. Don't really like Vegas' schedule this week, and there's a lot of defensemen that I like way more than him, especially given in playoffs, and we have to have short leashes. I'll take another one. I think we should go in twos here because we probably have a few. Ilya Samsonov is my other one. Goaltender, 41% owned. Seems to be that Holtby is the starter again. He's been playing very, very well. Samsonov hasn't started in a back-to-back match or back-to-back in a long time now, so I don't think he's going to be majority starter going forward. 41% is just way too high with all the goaltenders that are out there right now, and even then, let's say you're in only an averages league, he's not even getting you that.
My first one, and this is going to sound a little funny, but it's kind of a timing thing more than anything, is Michael Backlund. Center left wing, 49%. He's been very good lately, but I feel like his upside isn't high enough, despite how good he's been playing, due to lack of power play, basically, to justify holding him on a 2-game week. And that's the big thing. If your league is deep enough that this makes sense, or you think that you can survive the week despite getting only 2 starts from him, then you can consider it. But in most leagues, I would probably drop him, actually, and just pick up somebody who's going to get you more starts. You can get twice as many starts from somebody else, like more than that, by using a streamer spot instead of Backlund this week.
You want to take another one for fun?
Sure. My next one is Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yep, it's time.
Center, 67%. It's the same deal. It's not that I hate him or think he's going to have like an awful rest of the season. I just can't justify him on a 2-game week. I really can't. I think there's just going to be better options, and given the rest of the Blue Jackets schedule, you're not going to miss him that much. I think you can just do better by streaming if somebody else picks him up,
especially as a center. Especially is the nail in the coffin there. Okay, my next one here is going to be an Andreas Athanasiou. Center, left wing, right wing, 29% owned. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to hold because it's Edmonton and they play 3 off nights. But don't be fooled. It is not worth holding him. Just straight up, not worth it. So he's a clear drop in my opinion. Then
I can assume there's a bunch of people being like, he plays 4 off nights. Sunday is not an off night. At least not by the way we describe it. There's 9
you
games
might
on
have
Sunday.
room, so maybe for you it's 4, but the way we describe it to the general public, for the sake of the show, is if there's more than half the teams in the league playing, that is technically an on night. So
yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I have room on Saturday. I have room
for
on
both
Sunday
in most of my leagues.
Actually, I might have room for both. Maybe it was this Sunday.
Yeah, I have room for both, but the problem is just that.
Oh no, it is next week. I don't have room on Sunday. I'm full. I don't have anybody benched.
Even then, and FNCU is just not worth holding, in my opinion. My next one here is from the Calgary Flames, David Riddick, goaltender, 80% owned. Not only do they only have 2 games this week, but on top of that, he is no longer the starter, it seems. Cam Talbot has a 9.19 on the season, has been lights out as of late. So I don't think there's any reason to hold David Riddick through this next week. If someone picks him up, so what? Doesn't really matter. At this point, you drop and you get way more starts than David Riddick.
Yep. My last one here is Jacob Trouba, D 85%. He's way overowned. Way overowned. He should have been dropped a long time ago in non-block leagues. What about
blocks leagues though? Because I know his blocks have slowed down over the last 3 games.
They've slowed down
over the last
too much.
3 games. Before that, he was okay.
I think there's better options.
Yeah, there's one.
In blocks leagues, you might be able to argue kind of, but still, I'd rather, instead of having Trouba, who's going to get you basically only blocks lately.
Yeah.
Not even that. He's had, the last time he got more than 1 block was 5 games ago.
It's been a while since he's blocked a lot, huh? I'm looking at him right now, too. Yeah. His
minutes have been kind of wavering. I don't know.
He's in a tough spot. My last one here. Oh, this one's gonna this is gonna rustle some feathers. Ruffle feathers. Ruffle feathers. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Barkov.
Oh my god.
Center, 99% owned. So as of tonight, he now has 6 games without a point. No off nights. A very hard schedule against teams that are difficult to score on. Only 3 games next week as well. He's a center for also. The tough thing here about this is that I'm mostly making this call on Barkov for 10 team leagues, 8-team leagues, the shallower leagues. Even in my 12-person, he is borderline, I don't know if I want him because he's just taking up a room on a center spot that I could be using on someone else. So 12-person, I think anything above or deeper than 12-person, you're probably not dropping Barkov. 12-person, it depends.
I wouldn't drop him in a 10-person. I still buy him.
You might.
I wouldn't. I get
what if he's the center?
What if playing a ton of
what
minutes?
If he's the center? Yeah, but we don't have time. You don't have time to wait around. And
I know, but I mean, by some point, it should be happening already.
Right,
it should happen next game.
Not. I mean, I've been saying this for.
This isn't like he's playing 15 minutes
for a while though. And at some point, there's only 3 games here for Barkov this week. Only 3. If you're in the situation, if you're in a 10-person league, and Barkov's the guy you're benching every week or every day throughout the week. What I'm saying is there's no point in holding there. If you're already set on benching him because he hasn't been doing anything, there's no point in holding if you can add starts elsewhere. That's my take.
But he only plays 3 this week, but then he plays 4
No, he plays 3
4.
next week.
He plays 4. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
What did I do then? I looked at the wrong week. Anyways. Also, the other thing is the Florida Panthers have a very difficult schedule down the stretch here. Very, very difficult. But regardless,
next week
I just don't know, man. I think at some point, guys like Barkov are the ones that you look at and you're like, this could be a difference maker in the playoffs. Where, yeah, maybe you miss out on 1 game where he goes off, but then you miss.
Well, you might miss out on a lot of games where he goes off.
I don't know. Yeah, I might come back to regret this. For what it's worth, I'm not dropping him, but he's right there. The guys above him, there's only 2 guys above him on my team that are drop worthy. That's it. That is it. Everyone else, he is my 3rd worst skater at the moment. Probably 2nd worst. That's where it is. That's why I'm putting this on here, because I'm considering dropping and I'm very close to. And if next week my matchup is close, for example, I'm dropping him. Absolutely. In the middle. So that's why I put him on here. If someone is on the fence about it, I don't think you need to be too on the fence about it if you've been thinking about it for a while. All I'm saying there.
He's going to take me to the win in our main league.
We will see. Okay, let's move into the week preview and talk about week 22 here and what the schedule looks like. So teams with 4 games are going to be Edmonton, Colorado, Buffalo, Ottawa, Winnipeg, New York Islanders, Vancouver, Nashville, the New Jersey Devils, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Carolina Hurricanes, Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Anaheim Ducks, and the St. Louis Blues. Teams that play 2 games are going to be Calgary and Columbus. So those 2 teams, do not keep players from those teams. And then teams that play 3 off nights are going to be Edmonton and Colorado, and that is it. There is nobody else that plays 3 off nights. So those 2...
There are only 3 off nights, by the way.
So they play all of them. So, and the thing is, too, one quick note on the schedule, which I mentioned in the weekend preview, but not as many people listen to the weekend preview as the week preview. Yep, we pay attention. We're on to you guys. We know. But one of the things that I mentioned there was that it is a very bad tail end of the week. It's really hard to get good starts like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I think this is one of those weeks where you're going to want to be proactive early. This is one of those weeks where if you have 4 starts, or 4 ads rather, I would rather do 3 early and leave 1 for late than my usual 2 and 2. Usually I leave 2 early, 2 late. This week I'm going to do 3 early, 1 late. That's kind of what I'm going to do.
I actually don't I think this whole week, despite there being 4 on nights, is one of the best there is, though. Like, the on nights are not heavy. You can stream in and out all day long on every day. In fact, in most of my leagues, I'm not even full on any day except for 1.
I'm kind of the same way. I in my keeper league, I don't bench once, and I have like 62 starts. So there's room to improve there.
Yeah.
So moving into short-term targets here, let's take some players. So I have a lot of players. So I'm going to do 2. I think we can do 2 at a time here because I'm figuring you have a lot as well.
Yeah, but I'm going to call my first 4 guys out hold like rest of the season most likely.
I think the guys, I have them somewhat in order. There's some that I'll have later that, most of mine are kind of in order. So I'll go with my first 2. My first 2 are Dustin Brown, right wing, 28%. That's an obvious one. Yes, had a 4-point game, but I know we're going to get questions of can he do this again for this week? And the answer, in my opinion, is yes. I know he only has 3 games, but he has 2 tired teams. He's playing 20-something minutes with a ton of peripherals. I can't think of a better player that I'd rather sacrifice 1 start for than Dustin Brown at the moment. My other one here is going to be Duncan Keith, who we've talked about incessantly. Defenseman, 26% owned. He's doing really good stuff. And while Chicago only plays 3 games, still, it's very hard right now to find a defenseman that is doing what Duncan Keith is doing.
Yep. Those were 2 of my
longer terms. Yeah.
Long term, if you want to call it that, targets. My next 2 were Igor Shesterkin. Actually, my next 2 are both goalies. Shesterkin's 36%. I don't know if we're going to see that go up or down because I know there's a lot of hype around him, but after getting blasted, he might actually dip a little bit. And then my next one is Cam Talbot.
Yep.
The other side of Riddick. Again, because Calgary only plays twice this week, if you're picking him up, be aware of that. Make sure you don't need the extra starts this week. But rest of the season, he's in pretty good shape, considering the Flames have been playing completely differently ever since, I don't know, a few
He's
weeks
also
ago.
An interesting option if you have, let's say, only 1 goaltender, or you've been like running, let's say, Vasilevsky and streaming a lot. Then even though he only has 2 starts, he's probably still a good handcuff to your volume starter. So if, like, let's say you only have Hellebuck and then like kind of a crappy goaltender like Korpisalo or something, I don't know. Talbot is a really interesting option there because, like you said, they've been playing really differently in front of him. Okay, my next one here is Clayton Keller, actually. Left wing, right wing, 45% owned. Now, here's the thing with Clayton Keller. I'm putting him more on your radar, less because he's good this week, even though he is up to like 18 minutes again, but more so because next week he has a fantastic schedule. As Arizona probably has the 2nd best schedule of the week next week. And so because of that, if you just have him on your radar, because if you're already doing really well in a week, say Wednesday or Thursday, and you think you're going to advance, I wouldn't be against making the rush ad to get Clayton Keller before next week, because he's going to be next week. I'm telling you right now, Clayton Keller is going to be my favorite for next week going into it. And then I
don't think Clayton Keller will ever be my favorite of anything.
I don't know. I think of all the options that are out there on, especially the Arizona Coyotes, Clayton Keller's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, but when I picture myself staring at a screen, shaking my head, the name that I'm shaking my head at is always...
Did you imagine picking up Brett Connolly last year and him winning your league?
I mean, I have a soft spot for him now.
Exactly.
All right, my next one is Zach Cassian.
Ooh, yeah, this is a good one.
Right wing, 18%. He's back where he was. You know, he was fairly highly owned, especially in standard leagues where hits count. If you're in a PIM league, he gets even more of a bonus. He's where he was back when he was like whatever 50 to 60% owned, which is probably about where he should be if he's going to stay there. Great, great week to pick him up as well. I'm not convinced he stays at his deployment, but if he does, he's going to be in pretty good shape.
I like Zach Cassian. I picked him up last week, or well, what is like this week for next week, for the sake of this next. It actually worked out because when I picked up Cassian, he was third line. I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance that over the weekend they try him top line again, and then I have him for my matchup. And alas, it has happened. Okay, my next one here is Tyson Yost, center left wing, 6% owned. I'm actually shocked that he's still only 6% owned after how well he's been playing. Top power play. The minutes aren't as high as I'd like, but they're really good still. And Colorado has a good schedule, so he's definitely my favorite on Colorado. If you're comparing like JT Compher and Tyson Yost, I prefer Tyson Yost over Compher, but they're both good options. So my next one here after Tyson Yost is Corey Crawford, goaltender of the Chicago Blackhawks, 48%. We've talked about him a lot as well, but he's one of my favorite goaltenders going into the week, up there with UC Saros. He's been sneakily good all season, although I will say that I like Corey Crawford a bit more in averages leagues than I do in strictly points leagues, where wins are kind of the most important thing.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting that they played him on the back-to-back instead of playing Malcolm Subban.
I mean,
that was interesting.
Malcolm Subban sucks. And the Blackhawks kind of sniff in the playoffs if the Nashville Predators or even Dallas falls off. Yeah.
Weird. My next one is Samuel Girard, D27%. This is a hedge against Makar coming back. He can be in, especially in points leagues. I don't know about peripheral leagues. It's just hard to recommend him long-term in peripheral leagues, but in points leagues, he's in about as good a spot as a defenseman can be with that insane, insane. It doesn't really matter. Anybody with Nathan McKinnon, basically. So on that power play, 27%, pretty low. Good for points leagues mostly. And I'll take one more here, and that's, believe it or not, Jeff Skinner, center left wing, 39%. This is less about points and more about you need volume. You know, you're going to a matchup, you feel like the deciding factor is going to be shots. Jeff Skinner's a shots guy, and it's hard to find them on the wire. Now that he's on, at least most recently, he played top left wing. We'll see if that sticks. You know, if he can keep his minutes up, that means his shots will stay up. You know, he should be shooting, 3 times or more a game, which is awesome. I wouldn't count on too many points from him. The top line deployment's great, but I would like to see a little bit more confidence in him by way of giving him power play time as well. So we'll see what happens
Jeff
there.
Skinner. I don't trust him. I don't trust any of the Sabres at this point, pretty much. Almost no Sabre do I trust. It's a scary world out there. Okay, I have 3 Blues here, actually, that I'm just going to take. Robert Thomas is my first one.
Well, actually, I think they did play him top power play
they did.
in this last game, by the way, Skinner.
He
played 20 minutes and got 6 shots and did not get a point.
Literally like Jeff Skinner this year.
There you go.
Yeah. So 3 Blues here.
But
Robert Thomas is my first one, center right wing, 6% owned only. Just someone who kind of has upside. Like if you're in a deeper league, and for example, one of my leagues is super deep rosters, there wasn't really any good options. And I was like, you know what? Who has somewhat good upside, gets you some peripherals, and has a good schedule? And to me, the St. Louis Blues are probably my favorite schedule of the week. Such an easy. They have such good teams. They play, I think, Ottawa. They play Florida, Anaheim, San Jose, and Ottawa, I think, if I remember correctly. Or it's maybe the Kings instead. But just crazy easy schedule. And so Robert Thomas is a guy who could have a good week out of nowhere. With given the schedule that they are, I could see them shelling teams. And then after that, I like Jake Allen, goalie, 17% owned. He's going to get a start in there somewhere. They do have back-to-backs. So somewhere in there, Jake Allen's going to get a start against really easy teams. So that's one thing to pay attention to. And then the last one here is going to be, I mentioned him briefly earlier, but that's Jaden Schwartz, left wing, 62%. Bandit, we're talking about the Blues here. Settle down. No. So Jaden Schwartz, really good option. Good power play upside as well, especially given how good the Blues have been and how easy their schedule is. I would absolutely go and take a look at who's available on the Blues, because any of the good players, I've even seen questions of should I drop Ryan O'Reilly, and so maybe you see Ryan O'Reilly out there. But the Blues have a sneaky good schedule this week.
Yeah. One other team that I think has a pretty good schedule this week is the Ottawa Senators, actually. They play Anaheim, they play the Kings, they play Chicago, and then they play St. Louis. Now, it is a road trip, so it's not the best deployment or anything for them as a team. But a player I like a lot and who has been pretty good lately, again, is Connor Brown. Left wing, right wing, 7% own, playing a lot of power play time, getting the best deployment of any winger on the team at the moment. And we've seen that happen before. It's a good week to take a shot on him. They do play 2 off nights as well, playing the Monday and Friday, or not, whether Wednesday and Friday. Tuesday is one of the lighter of the heavy game slates as well, and so is Sunday. So they're as close to having 4 off nights as you can get without actually having them. Again, there being 8 other games means that's like as close as possible. Well, just about as close as possible as it can be for them to have an off night there. So you'll likely be able to slot them in Tuesday and Sunday, at least one of the 2. So consider Connor Brown. I'm looking at him in a couple of leagues. And then my last one here is even lower owned from the LA Kings, Alex Iafallo, who's been up and down, but he is back to the top left wing. Had 2 assists, not like the most exciting player in the world. I'm more of a points league guy than a Cats guy, I think, just because he doesn't give you a whole lot else. And he is a player that you can take for the beginning of the week. Dustin Brown is significantly better, and he's still only 28% owned. But look at this. What does LA have set up for them for the first 2 off nights of the week? That is Monday and Wednesday. They play a tired Colorado team who may or may not have a good goaltender to even play. They're going to have Francouz. Maybe they get Grubauer back, but let's assume they don't. It's going to be Miska or whatever. I don't. It's pretty good news for the Kings, who have already been on a heater lately. And then on Wednesday they play a tired traveling. In both cases, by the way, they're home, both of these. So a tired traveling Colorado, and then a tired traveling Ottawa Senators. It's pretty good news for Monday and Wednesday for Kings.
Another guy to just kind of, I didn't have him on the list here. I had Iafallo and I had Connor Brown as well, actually. But another guy to kind of mention off the cuff here, won't even put a card up for him, but Thomas Chabot. Just a guy to think about. He's available in my points league, for example. Just someone, like you said, Ottawa has a good schedule.
I think he's like 80% owned still.
But he was actually, sure. I feel like he's one of those guys who was dropped a lot in leagues where players are paying attention a lot, and they're just making a lot of moves.
Apparently 20% of them. He's literally
he's available in my points league still.
He's got 5 points in his last 6 games. I don't know why anybody would be dropping him.
I know.
You crazy person. I told you it was a bad
dropping,
drop.
If he's still there, I'm probably going to drop Giordano for him this week. So we'll see, just because Giordano doesn't really get that many games and not really worth it going forward. So I have 3 more here.
Definitely.
Last ones. You're going to like these, I think. Maybe not. So my first one here is going to be a 0% owned guy on the New Jersey Devils.
I can tell I'm not going to like this.
0%. Dakota Mermis. Yeah.
What?
He's getting points. Points in 2 straight. Playing like 20 minutes a game as a defenseman. If you're in a 0% owned league, I mean, you better be taking a look at him at least. He's been playing super well. Maybe we'll sniff top power play? I don't think so. It's only been PK Subban as of late. But maybe. Dakota Mermis. He's a rookie. Got called up. Been playing really well. He's being rewarded with minutes recently. Currently on the second pairing, effectively. But he's been playing really well. Has points in 2 straight. Just someone to pay attention to. It's 0% owned. With the Devils playing as well as they are, I'd take a look at him. My other one here to mention is Barclay Goodrow. Tampa Bay Lightning, 15% owned. This is for peripherals only. This is mainly banger stuff. He's been hitting a ton, shooting quite a bit. Huge ad. Like, for example, I think what I want to do, and I hate this because I know that the people that listen I know that the person I'm playing in my league next week in the playoffs is going to be listening to this, so I hate giving away what I'm going to do probably, but I'm looking at dropping Ryan Reeves for Barclay Goodrow. Gets me 1 extra game. Very similar hits recently, actually. But that's probably what I want to do. I like Barclay Goodrow a lot. And the last one here from the New York Islanders, Jordan Eberle, right wing, 23% owned, still keeping that top line, top power play spot. Still shooting a lot and good point in power play point upside. So he's someone that is probably available in a lot of wires and has probably been available a little too long, and is a good ad for this upcoming week, especially given that they have 4 games if you can slot him in on all of them. So there you go. That is your short-term targets, your week 22 preview. We had a lot of players in there. lots of players, and even mention some that are good next week. Yeah, just
a handful of players.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, there you go. Engage with us on Twitter, on Discord. I'm engaged with us. I am sometimes on there. Brandon, if you ever get a response, it's normally Brandon 90% of the time. So go talk to Brandon. He's lonely, likes talking to you people, loves when questions come in. So thank you for listening. We will catch you next time.
Yep. Thanks for listening.